What's up guys, Raziel here, and it's been a while since I've done a Final Fantasy XIV video, and that's what this is. Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion's announcement is less than a week away most likely, so a lot of people have come into my streams and asked me, hey, how come I'm playing WoW a lot more recently and I'm not playing Final Fantasy XIV? Well, in this video I'm going to talk about what needs to change in Final Fantasy XIV to really make it excel beyond where WoW is at, to make it the best MMO on the market right now, and to, quite frankly, pull me and probably other people back. Let's talk about it.
I am Raziel.
Alright guys, so it's definitely been a while. There's some eye candy up on the screen from when I was still playing 14 and streaming it regularly. I'm going to be streaming it again more coming here soon once my guild is finished with the current content in World of Warcraft. But yeah, a lot of people have been asking me where I've been and what's been up with that, and I know everyone has this crazy idea that if I like one game, that it's impossible for me to like another, which is completely false. You can like and play two MMOs at the same time. I still jump in Final Fantasy XIV quite frequently, just to scroll around and do some things. But what ultimately killed Final Fantasy XIV, a lot of the fun for me, and made me actually start playing World of Warcraft again, was not necessarily things WoW did so much better out of nowhere. It was more problems that I have with Final Fantasy XIV's end game design most of all. And all these issues I'm about to bring up, which is what 6.0 needs to actually pull me back completely and to really, just knock it out of the park and go ahead of all the other games in the market, were things I mentioned back before the release of Shadowbringers. And because these problems still exist, they've only gotten worse and made things more stale for a lot of players, myself included. So let's just let's get into it, guys. You guys know that I love Final Fantasy XIV. I love MMOs in general more than anything. It's my genre. It's what I fucking love to play. And it's probably a lot of the reasons why you guys watch my channel, because you feel the same way. Now, Final Fantasy XIV has a lot of casual content, which, let's be honest, all MMOs are going to appeal to their casual player base more than anything else. Both World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, it's where most of their content is geared towards. So Final Fantasy XIV, they have a lot of amazing content. It's just not really my style. It's not why I play MMOs. Things like the housing system, mount farming, glamour farming, wondrous tales, many player events that they make themselves just for fun, like weddings and shit. I'm not really into that, but to each their own. I don't judge you if that is what you're into. That's fine. But with the next expansion after Shadowbringers probably being announced on February 5th here, coming up really soon, we're going to likely see the announcement of the new expansion, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. But the issue is, it'll be a lot of the same stuff, like new jobs. There'll probably be the chemist as a new healer. That's what people are leaning towards, or the geomancer or something like that. It's always fun to get new jobs, new areas to explore, new things to do, and I have no doubt that whatever Square creates will be a fantastic addition to the game. But what really needs to change, and I know it's taken a while to get to this point in this video, sorry for the long delay, but what is wrong with Final Fantasy XIV's end game, in my opinion? First and foremost, the end game gearing needs to change completely. One of the things that turned me off more than anything else, excuse all the little beeping in the background, it's my other computer. People are pinging me. I'm an important man. But one of the big things that people have kind of lost in Final Fantasy XIV as time has gone on is just that the tome system is aged, it's dated, and it's lackluster at best. And there's so many issues with gear right now. Ultimately, one of the things that pushed me away from 14 Endgame is Savage Rating. Apart from doing most of my Savage Rating in Party Finder, was the fact that the gearing is pretty pointless. There's really no point to gear, especially in the next patch when you can get crafted gear that's better than the last raid tier's Savage gear. People just do that. There really doesn't seem to be a whole lot of point in gearing out. The only content you really absolutely need Savage gear, complete full Savage gear to do, is ultimate raids, and a very small amount of players actually do that content. I didn't really do ultimate raids. For me, juice not worth the squeeze scenario. But I think it's cool people do. I cleared all the Savage and Party Finder from Heavensward up until after the first raid tier of this expansion. And it's kind of burned out for me because I just felt it was pointless. So what could change to do that? First and foremost, what I would change And these are changes I think the game needs, and please leave your opinions down below. I think you should only be able to equip maybe 3 or 4 pieces at most of crafted gear when crafted gear comes out, so you can keep it just as powerful as the same item level, but you can only pick have 4 pieces, 3 or 4 pieces equipped. So you'd go after the ones you are the BIS for you in terms of stats. Either that or make it so there's only 3 or 4 pieces that even are craftable as crafted gear. I like it better to have everything be craftable, but you only can have their unique equipped to the point you can only have 3 or 4 pieces equipped at a time. That way you're forced to pick pieces and then gear up in other routes. We also need gear, a good source of gear to be 4-man content and hard 4-man content. 4-man content and 24-man content more than anything in this game are pretty useless, other than you see it the story once, so you do grind out tomestones, but outside of that, it's pretty brain dead content. It would be fantastic if we saw a savage mode of 4-mans or some kind of thing to make gear stronger in 4-mans and much harder, so smaller group content is more relevant. What they could do at 24-mans, I'm not 100% sure. You obviously can't really do a savage with that because it just would become too hard with the different. You have to have 3 different 8-man groups in a Discord or something, which is people aren't going to do that. People are lazy. But I would really like them to see them use 24-man for content other than just half alt catch-up gear type of the way it is now and the way it's always been. I mean, the stories they tell there are fantastic, and it's great collaborations with other games, but I think that they could do more with 24-man. Savage can stay the way it is, but the gear needs to be useful. And again, if the gear from all these avenues can help you get through Savage faster, or help you do 4-man Savage faster, or Extremes faster, or Ultimates faster, it would make things a lot better. Another thing they could do with gear, in my opinion, is I think one of the best things WoW ever did, and it was one of the worst things they did getting rid of it, and that's why they're bringing it back probably this expansion now that we're in, is gear sets. And if in Final Fantasy you can't have a full gear set, some kind of gear choice that the pieces of gear you equip in some way, shape, or form change your play style, and not just in terms of stats like skill, speed, and haste and that kind of shit, but actually change how certain abilities work, so you can get a feel. So that way 2 Dark Knights are not always 100% the same, and you can even change it out depending on what fight you're doing, which makes mechanics become more complex and more, you have to know what you're going up against and change. It's one of the biggest things Final Fantasy XIV is missing, is adaptability and the ability to customize your character even more. I mean, even WoW, which has lost tons and tons of its customization over the years, and it's got a lot of homogenization, is still much more fun, in my opinion, and deeper than Final Fantasy XIV, because in the current raid tier, my whole team, we're changing our talents, our builds before almost every boss, which, a click of a button, you move some things around to be better for that boss, because this boss may have more ads, or this boss may have, a mechanic that this one talent would be really good to deal with. Shit like that is missing from Final Fantasy XIV. And I'd absolutely love to see some changes here. Unfortunately, the other big thing I think needs changing in Final Fantasy XIV, which I just don't think is ever going to get changed to be good enough, which is not all Square's fault, is PvP. PvP is one of my favorite parts of WoW and MMOs in general, and PvP in Final Fantasy XIV, I mean, we all know it fucking sucks ass from a straw. It's garbage, and they can definitely improve it, but Final Fantasy XIV, it's kind of going to get stuck in garbage mode because it's cross-platform, so you have to make it fair, and how the server tick works. You have to make it fair between console and PC players, and I just don't think Final Fantasy XIV's PvP is ever going to be in a place that's really, really, really good, and that's okay. If the PvE endgame, because we already know Final Fantasy XIV has really strong casual content, really, really strong storyline narrative. If the PvE endgame could just be better than everything else too, then how good PvP is, that's a concession I could make. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts and opinions down below? Predictions for 6.0? I mean, I'm excited to see what they're going to bring to the table, but I really, really think these things need to change, or I think Final Fantasy XIV is just going to become way too stale. Anyways, thoughts and opinions down below. Thanks, guys, so much for the support. I am still streaming every single Tuesday and Wednesday, and sometimes an additional third day in the week, usually around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern. Come check me out. The links is on the fucking screen now, but come check it out, guys. Appreciate the support, and as always, my friends, keep it real.